Let's turn now for some reaction to a giant killer in Republican politics, Jeff Johnson, who against heavy odds and a big fundraising disadvantage beat the former Republican presidential contender Tim Pawlenty last night in Minnesota's Republican primary battle for Pawlenty's old job, governor of Minnesota. Johnson is a county commissioner who's now the Republican nominee for governor of Minnesota, here live tonight to weigh in on the idea that America was never that great. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Thanks, Ed.
What do you say, first of all, to Andrew Cuomo tonight? You want to be a governor from your great state of Minnesota. I noticed that Eric Trump tweeted out, among other things, we weren't great after we beat Nazi Germany?
Yeah, well, and I think I hadn't actually heard this quote until just now, and it illustrates the difference between many on the left and those of us on the right. I think most conservatives believe that America is the greatest country in the world, and it always has been, and it always will be. You know, we have had our ups and downs, but we're closer to perfect than any other country has been. Unfortunately, there are many progressives in this country who don't believe that and think that we should be more like European socialist countries. So I guess it's entertaining when progressives say what they really think, which it looks like Mr. Cuomo did.
And what we're seeing is progressives, others on the left, more and more coming out and saying that they're for socialism. That's the Democratic Party being pulled to the left. Obviously, Minnesota, trending Democrat over the years, but President Trump came close to winning it last time. What's the state of play right now in your race and in the state of Minnesota in general?
I feel great about our race. I've been in this race for 15 months now, talked to tens of thousands of Minnesotans, and while Minnesota is seen as a left-of-center state, we're very much a center state, and Minnesotans are just very common sense. We care a lot about people, but we also want our money spent wisely, and we haven't been seeing that for the last 8 years in this state. So Minnesotans are very ready for a change. Donald Trump came within a point and a half, which is closer than any presidential candidate has in decades in this state, and it's because Minnesotans are ready for something different, and now I think in 2018 we're going to see that on the state level.
Politico had a story recently about what you may be up against, how you may or may not be able to pull it out. You're facing a Democratic Congressman now, Tim Walz, and among other things, they say 2 years after a bombastic Trump swept through the upper Midwest, Democrats are arming themselves with general election candidates widely considered palatable to a broader electorate than the party's progressive base. In the run-up to the 2020 presidential election, their victories serve as a reminder of the weight that establishment credentials carry in the Midwest. So the Democrats are trying to go in the Midwest maybe more mainstream than the socialist candidates I was talking about elsewhere in the country. But in the case of Tim Pawlenty on the Republican side, establishment candidates are not winning right now.
No, it didn't work. It didn't work in the Republican primary, and I would argue Tim Walz, who's my Democrat opponent, is not mainstream. I mean, he has taken positions just in the last couple of months during this primary for single-payer health care. He marched in a abolish ICE parade and has said that we should become a sanctuary state. He believes that taxes in Minnesota should go up. He seems to believe that our regulatory state is not strong enough, and we need to exercise even more control over individuals and companies. He's proud of his F from the NRA. So, yeah, so
real quick, Commissioner Johnson, I talked about President Trump has now endorsed you in the last couple of days with a tweet, but he was your third choice back in the 2016 Republican primaries, as you know better than I. At one point, you called him a jackass. You were not a big Trump fan. Is it going to be hard to get Republican voters to come home and support you after that fracas?
Well, actually, that comment, in context, I was asked by a reporter who I was voting for because I was chair of the Rubio campaign prior to that. And what I said, and it came up that someone had called him a jackass, and my response was, if I'm given the choice between a jackass and a dishonest, corrupt politician, I'll take the jackass. So that was the context. The context was I'm voting for him, and yeah, someone else called him that.
Real quick.
I think we're all together. He endorsed me today, yes.
All right. We appreciate your time tonight, sir.
Absolutely. Thank you, Ed.
All right.